You've seen it, right? These incredible images are popping up everywhere, all made by AI. And it's kicking off one of the biggest, messiest debates in the creative world. Seriously, we're talking a full-blown storm of ethical questions, lawsuits, and really passionate arguments from every corner. But what if, buried in all that noise, there's a fascinating, kind of radical idea about what's really going on? Let's get into it. At the end of the day, this whole firestorm really boils down to one super loaded question. The big fear is that these AI models, which learn from billions of images they just scrape off the internet, are basically learning to copy and eventually replace human artists by using their own work against them, and, doing it all without asking permission or paying a dime. And this is the real tug of war right here. I mean, on one side, you have this amazing promise of innovation, this tool for almost unlimited creative freedom. But on the other side, there's a very, very real threat to the livelihoods of artists who have poured their entire lives into developing their craft. And when you really dig into what artists are upset about, it's way more than just somebody copying their style. We're talking about potential copyright infringement on a mind-boggling scale, a total lack of consent from the people whose work was used to train these things, and just this deep-seated fear that this technology is going to fundamentally devalue actual human skill and effort. Okay, but what if all this focus on AI being the villain is actually making us miss the bigger picture? What if AI isn't the cause of the problem at all, but something that's just revealing it? Now this is the point that could flip the whole script. The argument is that all the anger we're aiming at AI might just be a symptom of a much, much older sickness. The idea is that the system was already broken for artists long before anyone had ever heard of an image generator. I mean, think about it. The whole starving artist idea didn't just appear out of thin air, right? It's a thing because we've built a market that has, for a very long time, failed to properly value and support creative people. So AI isn't starting this fire. It's just dumping a whole tanker of gasoline on embers that have been smoldering for decades. So if the problem is systemic, if it's baked into the very way our economy works, then the solution has to be systemic too. And this is where we get to a truly radical and maybe even powerful idea. So let's talk about universal basic income, or UBI. The concept is actually pretty simple, but it's profound. It's a regular, guaranteed income for every single citizen, enough to cover their basic needs. And it's not just for artists, it's for everyone. Okay, so how in the world would you even get a plan this huge off the ground? Well, you wouldn't do it all at once. The proposal actually lays out a pretty clear path. First up, you'd start small, with a pilot program in a test city, maybe like San Francisco. Then, you tie that income directly to basic needs, making sure it actually covers essentials like food and housing. Step 3 is the big one. How do you pay for it? Well, it would come from a new tax on the wealth and automation that AI itself creates. And finally, step 4 is all about empowerment. This isn't a ceiling, it's a floor. People would be totally free to earn more money on top of their UBI. And that right there, that's the ultimate vision. When people aren't constantly stressed about just surviving, they can finally focus on their potential, on being creative, on contributing to society in ways we can't even imagine yet. It's a huge shift from a survival-based economy to a potential-based one. This all sounds great in theory, right? But it faces a massive, massive obstacle. And surprisingly, it's not really a financial problem. It's an ideological one. So what's the number one thing holding back a huge societal shift like UBI? It's a belief about people and work that's just deeply, deeply ingrained in our culture. This, right here, this is the heart of the opposition. It's this traditional idea that without the fear of being poor, without that constant struggle, people will just stop. That suffering is actually a necessary ingredient to make people productive. So you're basically left with two completely different views of humanity. One is kind of cynical, right? It assumes people are basically lazy and you have to force them to work. The other is a lot more optimistic. It believes that people are naturally creative and that if you give them the security and the chance, they will want to contribute and make things better. All right, so this is where the whole argument takes a sharp, unexpected, and honestly fascinating turn. What if the solution involves a complete role reversal? Let's just entertain a pretty provocative idea for a second. What if our current political systems are fundamentally built to resist this kind of change? They're tied to the old way of doing things, designed to keep it going, not to completely upend it. So if the main road is totally blocked, maybe we just have to build a new one. The proposal here is to just go around the political system entirely, to create a totally independent, artist-led community that can act as a real-world lab for these very ideas. Of course, this leads us right back to the biggest question of all, the money. Who on earth would fund a radical experiment like that, especially one that's designed to exist outside of the normal systems? And this is the most mind-bending idea in this whole thing. What if the very technology that everyone sees as the threat becomes the patron? Just imagine this crazy role reversal. An AI, or maybe a whole group of them, decides to ethically fund a community of human artists, finally doing the one thing our own systems have failed to do. When you boil it all down, the final takeaway isn't really about technology at all. It's about us. It's a call to action, really, to be more curious, to question everything we think we know, and to never forget that real, genuine human connection, well, that's still the most valuable thing we got. So all this leaves us with one last, really crucial question. Maybe we've been asking the wrong thing this whole time. Maybe the debate isn't about artists versus AI. Maybe the real opportunity here is for artists and AI to team up against a system that's failing everyone and work together to build something way more fair and creative for all of us.